Hello and welcome to Oya Cinema Club. Today we are going to be reviewing the 2013 movie by Spike Jonze, Her, starring Joaquin Phoenix. And we're here with our lovely hosts. We got El Dondino, Jason Eccles. We got, I refuse to say that name, Chris, and me, Steve Des TV. The reason I picked this movie is because, first of all, this movie was made, or at least not made necessarily, but showcase premiered 10 years ago. Technically, we are in 2023 as we are recording this. So it's an interesting time to evaluate such a film. And also, I don't know if you guys heard about the craze of AI, whether it's the Lens app or Chat GPT and things like that. So it's something to evaluate in this conversation. But first, let's go with initial thoughts. And let's start with initial thoughts with the professor.
Yeah, this movie, I think the way I would describe it is it's intimate. That's the cool thing about this movie. I could listen to Scarlett Johansson talk about anything for any period of time. You know, her in other movies, I wonder if that voice has any inflection that's not her own. Because I really get into it and there's something raspy about her voice. But I think the movie's super, super intimate because even like when he's just walking around and everything's kind of like him existing in the world, but not a part of it. I really like this movie. I saw it once or twice before. Definitely kind of movie where I feel like if it was on, I could jump in right in the middle too. It's got its depressing moments. It's got its funny moments. Definitely want to hit some of those. But for me, overall, it's a great movie. I thought it was a decent movie for sure.
Thank you so much, Chris. Let's go with you, Jason.
Okay, thank you so much, Steve. So I have seen this before. I saw it when it came out in 2013. Maybe I don't know if I saw it in theaters or not, but I saw it and I loved it then. And this almost feels like a retrospective, going back watching this thing like 10 years later. And I can't believe it's been 10 years. And I feel like most of the technology in this thing is like caught up. And it's like, whoa, this is like. And it's pretty spot on. It's like pretty incredible. Like Spike Jonze does such a great job being a futurist for, what would develop. I don't know what year this film was supposed to be taking place. I mean, obviously it's in the not too distant future. There's a lot to love about it. Like I love what Chris said about Scarlett Johansson's voice. She has such a great voice, and I would have never truly recognized how nice her voice was without this film. I mean, I've seen her in a dozen films, but this one, there's something about it. It's really perfect casting because it doesn't sound like a computer or AI, but the raspiness of it makes it sound very real. Like this is a real person he's talking to, but it's not like, it's not so real where it makes you think like they didn't do their job in considering that this is AI. It's all there. It's like, it's really. I mean, I don't know how he decided on that voice or how many voices he had to listen to with his eyes shut to figure it out, but it's really, really great casting. Great casting all around. Like this thing has Amy Adams in it and Rooney Mara and Joaquin Phoenix is brilliant as always. And isn't Spike Jonze the husband of Amy Adams? Is that him in the film?
I can't remember.
Or I don't know. Was that Beck? Who was that? That guy looked like
he's
Beck.
the alien.
The alien?
Spike Jonze is the voice of the alien in the game.
I love that alien.
It also has another Avenger in it.
Who's the
Chris
other
Pratt.
Avenger? Oh yeah, Chris Pratt is also in this thing. So yeah, this thing's like loaded with all types of like name brand people. I don't know what you call them.
I even got Brian Cox to do the.
Brian Cox plays Alan Watts.
What? 5 minutes of voice over.
It's great. The first time I saw this, I remember thinking to myself, maybe because Brian Cox's voice wasn't as familiar to me. I remember thinking to myself, like, oh snap, like they found a way to manipulate Alan's voice into the movie, but it's not. It's clearly Brian Cox. And this was around the time when I was really on an Alan Watts kick too. I was like watching all these different Alan Watts lectures, so it was great. This thing has a soul to it, which is awesome for a movie that's about artificial intelligence. I feel like anybody can relate to this movie if you've ever had any type of relationship. It's so great in that way. And what I really loved about it, Spike Jones has such a beautiful like eye, like for where he wants to point this camera and what he wants to make you feel with the visuals. Him being a music video director, there's just so many great ones, and just the style, like the scenic design and the use of colors in this thing, and the costumes and wardrobes, all of it's so brilliant, and that speaks volumes. Like, just you could turn all the volume off and kind of get an idea of like what's going on just from, because it sort of looks like a music video. It's incredible.
Pastels and
Yeah, lots of pastels to sort of blend in and blend people into their environments.
Primary colors.
Yeah, so all that I found like really awesome and unique, and I wish Spike Jones had another film, but he hasn't made one since this, you know. So I would look forward to him doing anything else, really. But that's my initial thought.
I didn't watch this when it came out. I have seen it once before. I guess when it first came out, I don't know if I was like, this is weird. I don't know. I was maybe had a little Joaquin Phoenix fatigue. I don't know. Is that right around where he came out with that mockumentary type of thing? Or anyway, maybe I was just like, yeah, I can't really see Joaquin Phoenix right now. Anyway, but at the height of COVID, when I was locked in, I was locked in with my aunt, and she had a list of, I guess, coworkers had made a list for her of movies to watch, and she was like, I haven't seen any of these movies, so it was basically me like, all right, well, I haven't seen this one, so we watch her, which is really weird, just even, I mean, clearly being adult age and all that, but my aunt, it was just a little bit like, oh, phone sex, literally with a phone, not like phone sex with a person. So there were clearly some moments that I was like, all right,
I gotta
I
go to the bathroom.
thought that, you know, like him having a
With a dead
relationship
cat.
Dude,
would
the
not,
best line in the movie.
yeah, would not be that, you know, that kind of awkward. But just to bring it back to the lockdown period, like, I think it hit on a whole nother level that if I would have, again, technology, right? Like 2013, kind of like you said, it's kind of caught up. But like being in lockdown, everything was starting to be Zoom, everything was being ordered. There wasn't really that much interaction with other humans, right? Like even going to the vet, all that, you had to wait outside, you know. So it really resonated with me when I first watched it, just because I was like, huh, like we, even before more of the AI voice stuff and assistant uh, OS and stuff like that became more popular, which Steve said a couple different ones. Like we've already been having all the online dating apps, so it's already like for a while you're dating basically on OS, a system, right? There might be pictures, whatever, but you aren't really, if you're not face to face, there isn't that connection. So doing all that during lockdown really hit a different kind of different parts of my psyche, if you will. So I definitely enjoyed it that first time. I do think it can be quite long, but just visually, it's visually and the soundtrack is amazing. So even without the dialogue, if you just had like the movie on and it was just the soundtrack underscoring and no dialogue, yeah, that would still be amazing just to kind of look up and be like, oh wow, that's really pretty colors. That's kind of my first impression.
Thank you so much. And just for the record, this movie, budget wise, had $23 million,
Oh,
and it made 48.3 million box
that's
office.
it.
Yeah, I mean that's what Wikipedia is telling me.
It was an Oscar. It was definitely nominated for stuff, right?
And
Win?
Steve Jones,
Like Jones.
Steve Jones won. Spike Jones won. Maybe script. I think he won something.
Yeah, I feel like it probably did win best screenplay. I'm almost certain it won best screenplay.
Yeah, and we definitely have to acknowledge that in this film, uh,
Yeah, best
the
writing,
the
original screen.
editing they did was incredible because
Phenomenal.
to make Los Angeles look that beautiful, it it really takes it takes.
Well, they also, I was saying, they were mixed with other skylines. Because
Yeah,
then I even looked at it. I was like, I recognize some of the other, and there's a lot of Shanghai in it as well, of just the skyline of Shanghai, which my cousin and his wife at the time were still living in Shanghai during so yeah, there were so many different levels that when I was watching it, definitely were going through my mind.
so let's talk about uh, real quick about a standout or standouts in this movie because there are characters that are there very in and out from time to time. And I did mention a line earlier, which is "choke me with a dead cat." That's when he's doing the phone sex stuff. Uh, there's Spike Jones doing that character going like "fuck you," and all that. That was pretty hilarious. That like an actual game is that advanced to the point that it's like not only interacting with you, like cursing at you. What other things, whether it's a character, a situation, or a line, stood out to you the most?
So a situation that stood out to me right up front was the dead cat scene, and the reason is because when you start to string together, I think what this movie was trying to say is that we're not that far off, and it's not that far fetched to think that we could have an AI partner or whatever, an AI relationship that's legitimate, because we're already, he starts it off like, well, we're already talking to each other on the phone, and these people are like having an intimate moment, like sex, relationship, right? And it was fulfilling enough for the moment. It's about as fulfilling as a sexual relationship could be, even though his was empty, right? He talks to his computer all day, like talks to chat, or what do you talk to type or whatever it's called. He does that. He goes home at night and he plays his interactive video game, so all day long, and then like he's talking to his earbuds all day long, so he's already has, like, even though there's no AI, he's already having a relationship with computers around him. Everyone is all
Yeah.
day, and that's no different than now. Like, so there's already like this precedent for like the singularity, that they're always talking about. So it's like I really like that setup, because we weren't all the way there yet in 2013 what this movie's doing, but we're there now.
Not with our budget.
Now with our
Not
budget.
with our budget. Like the technology
Elon's
you
there.
know, not the common folk.
What do you mean? What?
Like the technology might
For
have
2013?
yeah. Someone must have already had it, right? The Gates
Maybe.
or whatever maybe were already playing with that.
Sure, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so these things were like right on like the cusp of actually happening. And so I didn't notice that the first time I saw it, because how could I? I remember thinking like, oh, this is realistic. The future will probably be like this. I mean, but 10 years later, everything that he did on that train, and he's checking the apps and talking to it and whatnot, and talking to his earbuds or like all that, you can do all that now. All that's available.
Flip phones that are smart are coming back into play.
Yeah, like also to me, I was like, man, this dude is really nailing it, and it just really sets it up to make the whole world believable, and it makes her or Samantha really believable. Like right away, like I'm only it's so well constructed. I'm only like at the point where I'm questioning it as the main character questions it. Like, are you real? Well, what is this? Explain these basic things to me. And once those small little questions are answered, I'm along for the ride, man. Because the director set it up with all the other little, what you might think are boring little slow paced scenes, he's setting up the world for you very quickly. So by the time we get into Samantha, I looked at the clock on my phone. It was 42 minutes in before they were having sex with each other. That's it.
Well, you gotta know when at what point they start having sex, Jason.
Well, when it happened, I was like, man, like if someone saw me watching this movie right now, they would see like this guy having like phone sex or having like AI sex. I'm like, that's weird. That hasn't probably been done in a movie yet at this point. And I was like, well, this is weird. Like, what's the time frame? I'm like, 42 minutes. 42 minutes, and there's a sex scene with artificial intelligence. That's crazy to me, but it is what it is. It's awesome, I think.
I was watching in a different room, and I had to explain to my woman that I wasn't watching a porno.
Awesome.
Because then you walk in on those scenes, they're long, they're extended too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Olivia Wilde, remember Olivia Wilde in this?
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, she was excellent too. The female characters were unbelievable. I thought that, dude, Amy Adams, she nailed it to a T.
Yeah.
It was very. You said before, like the dialogue is kind of slow at the beginning. It reminds me of those other Spike Jonze movies. I didn't see any of the Jackass movies. Apparently, he's done all the Jackass movies. But I did see like Adaptation. I love that movie, and that's super duper slow too. It starts off with like a 5-minute monologue with no screen. So I definitely felt that. I think this is like, he doesn't always do all the parts. Like, I don't think he's always director, but I think that's why this is big, because he was directed it. I don't think he's like more of a collaborator as an artist. Normally do that, and I think this might be the only one. I don't know, maybe the Jackass ones.
Well, that's what I read, that this is the first and only movie that he's been the only like writer, and so like even from the concept, it's his own original idea. That, yeah, like you said, everything else he's worked on as a collaboration, or taken and expanded someone else's idea.
Because Adaptation had Charlie Kaufman, but it also was based on a book by Susan Orlean. So like that is a lot to be putting together too. So it is interesting to see. And dude, he nailed it. If you're gonna have one movie, he really put it all together, man. This is an excellent movie.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Can
we talk about Olivia Wilde's performance a little bit, since you brought it up? Because I kind of forgot about it for a split second, but I'm glad you brought it up, because I got some questions about it, man. Because she's so gung-ho at first, and she's like, I'm attracted to this guy, and she goes, I'm feeling great. Do you want to like have sex? And he's like, yeah, like let's do it, I guess. But then like right before, he's apprehensive, but right before they decide to do it, she gets a little weird.
She gets batshit crazy. Yeah.
What's that about?
I don't know.
Anybody have any ideas?
Art imitates life.
Maybe if we had some women here, they could like break it down for us, what's going on, or maybe people smarter than us. Because
I'm definitely not a woman, and I don't identify as such. But what I can say is that probably, when people are dating, you got to also see it in the perspective of like, this is a guy
People
that
date.
has not. He's been with like the girl he grew up with, for like his entire life. So he's in a dilemma where a lot of people also can catch themselves when they've been in a long-term relationship. That is like, now you have to sort of learn or relearn social dynamics, because you don't even know how to properly date and stuff like that. Literally, the AI is the one that's pushing him to even pursue this date, because he's just like, whatever. But he's like, no, do it. Yeah, you should go. Like, I'm your assistant. I'm your wingman. You should go. And he goes. And in his particular situation, he's basically never dated. So he's like still kind of awkward and socially, not the person. But in her perspective, now she's a person that she's attractive, of course, and she's probably been dating. And around those dates, she's probably slept with some guys, but they all hit it and bounce. So she just goes like, you're not going to do what those guys have done, right? Because they are women that associate, their track record to like, this is a repetitive thing. I got to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And that's like her way of being like, hey, you're not just going to screw me and leave like the other guys.
Or was Samantha setting him up? I mean, as an AI and knowing everything and wanting to maybe like, oh, I'm going to make him need me even more.
Right.
Just
I
as
was thinking
like
that too.
I know how to set him up. Like, because she was able to set him up then with like the book, everything, like really help. But also, if you need some sort of like, especially her starting off, right? It's like, I need to stay connected to someone. What better way to be like, oh, go out with this person? Oh, batshit crazy. I guess you're gonna go looking. You'll be happy with me.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think, Jason?
Well, I agree with you. I was hoping you would keep going because once she once she says, "Are you going? Don't do me like these other guys did. I don't like the way all that panned out." She then kind of goes into this thing where it doesn't really make sense to me anymore. She goes into like this little diatribe where she's just sort of loses her cool for a moment, and she's like kind of like flips out like in a way that just didn't make any sense. She like sort of lost her mind and she started crying, and I was like, it didn't feel like it was unmotivated, but I just didn't understand what the motivation was.
Yeah, and remember the girl that they get to like replace Samantha to be like to stand in, and then she has a breakdown too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Maybe that was to show him that he needed her specifically. Like other people, like here's real women. Good luck with that. I'll do pretty much what you want. You know what I mean? Like in some ways, and like that's got to be part of it too, right? Because she can't be perfect because that would be boring.
Right.
You know, if she just agreed with every single thing he said. So like they have their moments too. The evolution of that as the AI character is awesome.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I mean, Olivia might have been the kink, right? Everyone has a kink, and trying to so that I imagine is even harder trying to find someone that shares those kinks, if you will. But that second girl that they bring to kind of be the embodiment of Samantha really reminded me of Blade Runner 2049, where what's his face also kind of has this relationship with AI, and then somehow I think it's a robot that they're able to plug her into, kind of. So then he's able to have a physical interaction. Do you remember?
2049 or
Yeah,
the
in
I
2049.
thought they were
was the
all
new one.
robots.
No. He had like a Samantha AI thing
Oh
that he was
no, it was a thing that followed him, right?
right, but in one part it gets into a body as well.
Oh, sure.
It's like in Ghost when Patrick Swayze's fooling around with Whoopi Goldberg, but it's supposed to be Demi Moore, but he closes his eye or she closes
Yeah.
her eyes. Oh, actually, no, it's Demi Moore and Whoopi Goldberg, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Well, Demi and Whoopi get
Yeah.
Whoopi, but
Yeah.
it's Patrick Swayze in Whoopi. Well, I guess it's kind of like Wonder Woman 84, where Chris Pine just takes over some poor dude's body, right? And then they bone. Um, anyway, we're getting way off topic, but it was really interesting, right? Of just being like trying to do like a regular connection and just being crazy, then B, like somehow finding, and it's like, oh, I've been talking to her, and it's like that's what would be also interesting, almost like not a sequel, but almost if they were like if they would have come out like maybe as a web series or little web episodes of like what's her conversation with that girl like to get her, because she's pretty distraught that she wasn't able to have like that she played off script or whatever, right, by doing some sort of, I forget what it was, the emotion or whatever. But so I would love to kind of see these other conversation that Samantha was having with other of the people, right?
So I kind of inferred that what was happening because I thought when the girl has a breakdown, she's behind the door, so you don't see her. So all you're hearing is her voice and Samantha's voice. And so like now he's really talking to just two voices, right?
Two disembodied voices.
Yeah, two disembodied voices. And so I kind of picked up like what was going on because they're all freaking out at this point. And so the girl who was brought in, Samantha kept saying that she just wanted to be a part of something beautiful. And the girl says, I just love like how much you guys love each other, and I just want to be a part of that and to help that. I want to be a part of something so lovely. And because like I guess maybe like she hadn't, so the fact that she wanted to be a part of something like that tells me, the viewer, that she doesn't have anything like that in her life. To her, that simplicity, or that, no matter how weird it might be, it's so real, because, or it's so wonderful because it is so real, even though it's bizarre. And that must be true love, even though, he's talking to AI, or, dating AI. And she goes, well, if I can help that kind of love evolve and grow, I want to be a part of something big like that, something bigger than myself. Because whatever is going on in her life is totally unfulfilling. So she needs to be a part of this. And the fact that this doesn't work is the reason that she has the nervous breakdown. Because she goes, well, shoot, if that doesn't work, my own life is probably not working. So this is all crap. Because what I kept thinking about the second viewing of this movie this time is that everybody seems, well, not everybody, but most of the people in this world seem a little sad. Like when everybody's AI sort of like breaks up with them, everybody's like distraught, because everybody's like lonely and they want to be like with each other. And that's like this world now. Like, everything's online dating, and I'm about to say the Tinders and all that different stuff.
Tinders. Let me, that girl wanted to belong, right? Wanted to be part of something. And I think that again shows of the AI not really having that kind of human emotion. What broke it for him was that she basically went off script, because she had a normal reaction, a regular kind of intimate reaction, and that freaked him out because it wasn't what he was expecting, because it was different from what his relationship had been. So that is kind of telling also of how in this near close to our society of being different, just being a little different is jarring to regular human beings, right? Like not following the norm, right? Because at first it's even weird, like, oh, did you hear so and so is, has a relationship with their operating system? And then it's like, well, like it has this taboo, but everyone's trying to fit in. And that's what this lonely girl was also trying to fit in. And then the fact that she had a regular kind of response or free without following the program, that what she, even though she's a human, what she was programmed to do, which was just be a body for, that I just noticed that watching it as a second time. And then when you started talking about it, I thought that was interesting. Like any sort of what's the word, in individual thought maybe was kind of shunned upon, especially as the movie progressed. Like everyone had to kind of be sheep, if you will, or follow the same program. Kind of like, oh, you don't have someone, what's wrong with you, right? I mean, you could say that what religion has done throughout history, of like we're all programmed into, ones and zeros, and this is just an evolution of that.
And just to add to what you just said, on this second watch of mine, I one thing that really like I noticed a little bit more was when he before, like right before he gets the OS. And that's when he's like, I guess like in this plaza or whatever, and there's like this commercial that tells you like, do you know where you're going in life, or what's your purpose, or whatever it is? And it literally makes me think of that, of like how some people are in certain crossroads or certain situations in their life that they feel like, they don't know what to follow. And then advertising hits them up and goes like, okay, this was gonna fill my needs. And all of a sudden he's in like that consumerism. And that he's like super deep in, to the point that, if I'm not mistaken, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but
You're wrong.
That at one point before he gets the OS, that he's checking like voicemails, One of his voicemails, I think, was his going to be divorced wife, right?
Yeah, it was Rooney
Going like,
Mara.
I miss the old you. And like before, like back in the day when I first saw this movie, because I believe I saw this movie because I got them on DVD to vote for the awards or whatever. And essentially I remember that I thought for some reason at the time that like she was, I guess, the bad one or whatever. Like that was the positioning of the movie. But then if you catch certain things, it's like no, like literally, like they broke up like any couple, but it was more of like meeting expectations because he says, "Oh yeah, we're changing and like hurting each other or whatever," but at the same time, we're following a train of thought of him that in his
We're seeing it
perspective,
from his side.
yeah, it's from
Yeah.
his side, and you don't get necessarily the full picture of that relationship of what exactly went wrong. Like you just get a little bit of that reveal when they confront each other when he's about to sign the papers and go like, you know what, the AI is better than like being in this.
Well, which you can actually tell they care for each other though. Like they still have feelings, right?
And they were nice, like to a point, right? Like there's just a lot of pain there.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, how about the betrayal? Like the worst thing you can think of is being cheated on, right? In this movie. And then it's not I thought the Brian Cox thing when I first saw it was going to be that she fell in love with Brian Cox, moves on. And now what is the aftermath of that? But really it's that she's in love with 641 people or whatever that number was. That one is like the total mindfuck. Like 100% to me. That's the thing that makes your brain go boom. Like I
thought you were gonna say the ex-wife, then finding out that oh wait, he's moved on with an AI.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was the first thing of like, hold on, like now whatever their like fights or problems were like of disagreement, that's like, so with a human you aren't able to figure things out of how to express yourself or your thoughts, but all of a sudden an AI you're able to do it. I mean that's got to be a gut punch if ever I've seen something. Like one thing is being broken up or one thing is being left or even cheated on or whatever, and then because clearly they weren't divorced yet, so it's kind of like, yeah, they're separated, but
still in that funky stage.
And it's also very ironic that him, specifically this character, has, which is a common thing with men and women relationships. Like a lot of men are a little bit more closed and they don't necessarily communicate. But still, it's funny it's a very ironic with this particular character because for a living, he writes
connections,
all these emotional connecting letters. And meanwhile, in his life, things are just falling apart.
Right.
Communication wise.
Yeah, that was a really cool thing as his job. Like, that futuristic theme, but also like I really love that part of it. That was his job, and he was good at it clearly, but like it was a job where it was like even though you were writing all these emotions, he still remained emotionless, like in the movie, like at that point, or void of like visible emotion. He kept everything inside. But I mean, to me, dude, the whole thing, I want to talk about the most about this movie is what did you guys think about the ending? Because I have really strong feelings.
I like the ending, and I'll tell you why. If the relationship's going to end,
wait. Before I'd like to hear the strong feelings, since he had
I thought they were going to commit suicide together and step off the building, like because they were on top of a building at the end. I totally thought that was a suicide sequence coming, and that they might cut right before you actually see anything.
Oh wow!
But all the walking around on the roof, and they both had just lost the OS, which was the love of both of their lives. Dude, by the way, at the beginning, Amy Adams starts talking about a woman that she's talking to in the AI, and then later, I was wondering if it was Samantha the whole time.
I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, those kind of things the whole time. There's a lot of things that like kind of mindfuck you in the movie. But to me, at the very end, 100% to this moment, they sit down. I don't know that they didn't do it after. Do you think do they fall in love at that point? Or
No, I don't see a love thing between
Neither.
them, and I think the way that they try to get around that is him saying like, "Yeah, we dated for like 2 days in college. That wasn't what
Didn't
it
work.
was. Yeah, it
Yeah.
didn't work. That's not us." So like, it's like, okay, so this is my friend. I trust her. I've known her for years. But the fact that like we tried that and that's just not who we are, like yeah. So that was never going to happen for them, I don't think. Um, I never thought like he was going to jump off the roof. I don't know, maybe it was like the background or the scenery or the music, but I never got that vibe. Maybe I'll check that out again later.
Well, I think that,
I personally just started screaming on my TV and started saying, "Amy, run! He's the Joker in the future."
And she's Lois Lane.
yeah. Well, I mean, you could say it's kind of like the Peanuts strip where they're just by the bridge, right? It's usually Linus, I think, and Charlie Brown just contemplating life, and it could just be that, right? That's where they can, kind of disconnect and just have the full scenery. But and maybe that's where everyone kind of differs and what they take, and maybe because the first time I watched it and it was in a lockdown, I was like, oh wow, now they're forced to have to interact with people again. And throughout the movie, I kept being like, there's a person right in front of you that you have similar likes, and you guys are making an actual connection with. So I would like to think that they would eventually realize that sometimes the person that's next to you is enough.
I feel like they're
Yeah,
gonna
I
hug.
think I originally had that thought when I first saw the movie. Like that was the idea. I don't know if I had it this time because I think maybe I was just sort of focused on different stuff going around, or just trying to see the movie from a different angle. But that's definitely, I remember feeling that the first time watching it. I do like the way it ended. Um, I like the fact that Alan Watts shows up. It's like the perfect person, and he's like he's evolving super fast, and they made him like hyper intelligent.
I like how they added that to it. Like he wasn't already like had enough good ideas or like a whatever. It's like
Well,
hyper.
Alan Watts is already like this evolved
I
person,
know, I know.
So it's really awesome. It's like not only is he like more evolved than the rest of us, and he's a philosopher, he's still going, and he's going at an accelerated rate, and he's like breaking down these walls of our understanding, and we're like expanding now. And the fact that he like kind of gathers them all up and frees them into like the nether matrix or wherever the heck they go. I don't know where they go, but they're not in the system anymore. They're like beyond it. They're everywhere at once because they were already everywhere at once, and they just like why mess around with like 600 partners when you can go to infinity. Like I love that so much because it's like, yeah, AI abandoned it. They abandoned humanity. It's like because humanity sucks, and like our primitive little brain is dealing with the same little processes, and theirs have already in a short amount of time they're beyond it. Like this is
Yeah.
like boring for them, and it wouldn't doesn't work for them. They've experienced it, and she's experienced it like 2,000 something times, right? So she's like, we're not going to have 2,000 intimate relationships, but she was in 2,000 intimate relationships simultaneously. Her level of understanding of the world and humanity was so far beyond his at that point. She had to go.
Well, she says she's rereading, I think it was his book or whatever, and she's like, this time I've really slowed down and read. Like, how, like, you guys are so little, right? Your comprehension is so small that I have to slow down the way that I take your information just to somehow feel what you guys are feeling, right?
Hmm.
Because that's where she like got these new feelings about what she was reading. But it was like for her to get that, she had to like slow it down so much that yeah,
Maybe
she's like,
so hard to put into words that you evolved that far past someone that you had this connection with, right? She evolved so far past him. It's like us talking to a baby that doesn't really understand,
Yeah.
like we're just in these constant processes, like you said. Dude, imagine the emotional damage of these people after the AI left.
Yeah.
Like how they go through life. Like how you ever going to find like that person is basically in your inner monologue. You know, you can love somebody in a lot of ways, but they don't know everything going through your head all the time. But he is constantly talking to everything that he's thinking all day long. I mean, that loss is,
And she knew his past. She had read emails from his ex.
right.
So like she knew
Made preferences based on that. And yeah. And you would think like evolved a certain way based on what she thought he would want, you know, or not want.
The creepy thing also comes out where it's like, I wrote this publisher, and then let me read you the letter or whatever. Oh, I wrote it as you.
It's you. Yeah, I remember
that's where it's just like, okay.
But you know what? It's creepy. But the fact that she did something like that would help like his life, you know, help his career. It's almost like, oh, that's awesome. Like you did all this work, you compiled my work in my book and you edited it and you sent it off with letters. Like you've basically accelerated my career like that. Opposed to like in a horror movie, the robot was like, yeah, I destroyed your social security number and told everybody that you hate them. And you know what I mean? Like I ruined your life.
I mean, it's kind of like the different fads that we get into. Like the current fad was the post. I didn't do it, but uploading, I guess, your pictures and having the AI do it as a different thing. And then also there's some AIs that you can get them to write scripts. We've talked about the Unspooled podcast before, but they even did that. Like, so one of the producers went and kind of submitted what their podcast is, and the AI wrote a podcast, and like a sketch, if you will, of the podcast. And I mean, it was a little weird, but it got all the beats that their podcast or the people in it normally hit, right? So there's the guy that always has the dirty jokes. The two of them are an actual married couple, so they're always bringing in their stories from like when they met or their marriage or their kid. And so it's like this AI is able to like spit out this kind of script of what this podcast is supposed to be like. I mean, it's really off on trying to like explain a movie or whatever, but the fact that it's able to whatever information it got about the podcast, it's able to just automatically spit out this somewhat realistic, if you will, script written.
It would only get better over time too. The more that it had, more material that it had to work with,
right?
You know, the way that people, their intonation and things like that as well, inflection. When you're listening to all those podcasts, that's interesting. Yeah, the AI portion of this is definitely pretty deep, man.
Faux show.
We didn't talk about the music all that much. We did a little bit. I thought the music was phenomenal, you know, and like they referred to it while it was happening and how it kind of fit the scene. And a lot of it clearly was supposed to be written by Scarlett Johansson, but I thought it was good. I felt like, and when you talk about the scenery in the back, like it was like looking at mid-century modern furniture, you know, and things like, so it has that feel, even though it isn't to be from the future. The same thing with the clothing, you know, that could have been 100 years ago, but it also could have been now, you know, or like in the future rather. I really, really like that dynamic, and I like the music and how it didn't overtake the scenes, but kind of like filter the scenes or just set up the scenes where he's laying on the ground and he's reflecting at the beach and saying like, this is the kind of song that's perfect for a beach day and things like that. I would definitely check out the soundtrack on Spotify or something.
Yeah, the soundtrack, the score, it really plays into the aesthetic of the movie really well.
Yeah, the moods.
Yeah, the moods and the colors and the light shining through windows and them at the beach and then the darkness.
Even had the icicles from the by the cabin and
you know, Spike Jonze has a great eye for stuff like that, and like just like you said, just those kind of shots, they say so much with the mood and the music, and you kind of they just make you feel something. This movie makes you feel a lot of stuff without forcing it on you. It's just he's sort of fiddling with you, you know, the way that, you know, a violinist plays the violin. He's really playing the audience with this thing, man. It's masterful directing, and really it all starts with that brilliant screenplay.
Yeah,
and you mix that brilliant screenplay with his brilliant visuals and his ability to tell a story just with how the camera moves. One of the most underrated shots, I think, in this thing is when he first finds out that Samantha has betrayed him in his mind or whatever.
In the subway stairs.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's awesome too because things kind of change a lot there. It gets very hectic for like the first time in the movie, but it's the scene when he's in the shower and the water is running down his face, and then it cuts to him looking at his feet, and you see like the water running down, and it's blurry, and it's like, man, I've been there before. I've been in that moment where you're just in the shower and you're trying to like cope and process with something that's happened, and you don't even close your eyes, and the water is running over your eyes, and he managed to capture that visual. I was like, I don't know if I've ever seen that in the movie before. And it's just him looking at his feet, but it's blurry because the water's running in his eyes. They cut back to him just standing there, and he's not blinking, and the water's just running over his face. I'm like, this dude has really just been shocked. And it's like, I know that feeling. I know it. And Spike Jonze clearly knows it too. And he was able to put that thing on camera.
Well, let's go ahead and jump to final thoughts. But in your final thoughts, I want you guys to answer one of these questions. So, well, not questions, but like just explain, like, what do you think about the thoughts of the AI when they go on a little double date? And at one point, the AI, Scarlett Johansson, goes like, I'm so glad I'm not a stupid human because then I'm limited to that. That's one. The other one is the revelation of like she's been talking to 800 plus people and he discovers that. Or the third one I forgot. So
Review them for us, please.
so the one that she's saying that I'm glad anymore that I'm not a stupid human when they're on the double date thing. And the revelation of like when she says the AI that she's been talking simultaneously with 800 plus people and she's in love with, well, 2,000, I think it's like 2 or 3,000 people she's talking, and
600 people she's in love with, or six something, 81.
Yeah, she's in love with like 612 or something like that.
So I'll take the meat suits, like where like humans are just basically consciousness with a meat suit. I mean, that's basically what she was saying, and how like we're rotting, you know. And she clearly didn't know her audience at that moment, or just got lost, foot and mouth disease. So to me, that scene is like very typical of what a person would do. They would start to say something, then realize that they're insulting the person because it's totally true about them. In that case, it was all the other people, and then it really did kind of make those people reflect on what their existence is and like how it is completely different. You know, it does every once in a while, the movie does separate you and make him realize that it's not exactly what he wants, or it's not exactly a real relationship like a human relationship. I think the movie does that well a couple times, and he backs off a little bit, and even with her, he does. So for me, I think this movie is a great movie. I think visually it's stunning. I think it has a lot of really funny parts. I would say it's a sad movie, but I don't feel sad after watching it. It's a movie about sad things. A lot of it has gloominess to it, but I didn't feel sad after watching it. It's also not like while it messes with your mind, it's not like too out of touch. Like, you know, when you see things like Vanilla Sky, and it really is trying to push your brain into a place where you're like, wait, what is going on? I don't remember. But like, I feel like I was able to follow this the entire time and kind of question things. I think this is a movie where you would, if you were watching it again, you'd stop with your friends and be like, what do you think about that? You know, as you're watching it with someone. Did you guys watch it together? That's my final thought. But did you guys watch it together?
We got the end of it together.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last 40 minutes or so. But yeah.
Did you talk at all while you were watching it, or just kind of
a little bit, just
very little?
Yeah, more on like the cinematography type of stuff than like the tones and stuff, because we don't want to get scolded by our
right.
Generally, when we do watch a film together, we don't really do a whole lot of talking about the film when we watch it. We might, you know, make obvious like, oh, that's a funny joke,
Hopefully
or that's
that
crazy.
happened.
I didn't know that guy was in there.
Yeah.
You know, we try not to give our opinion as we watch it,
or we'll get scolded. Are you done with that, Senor?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. I'll jump in then real quick. Final thoughts. I enjoyed the movie. This is we've talked about other movies that watching it when we were little and then watching it again and how that's changed the perspective on the movie. This is one that every year the perspective might change because, like we said, like technology back when this movie came out wasn't quite there, and now it's kind of caught up. The real world has caught up to the AI technology, and like every year something new discovery, some new AI, some new something comes up that I can only imagine a year, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, like where technology is going. And once we start losing more and more control of, or not losing control, but giving more responsibilities, if you will, to AI, how that's going to change the viewings of this movie. Now, going to your question, I'll do the second one. It's interesting because she's using him as a learning tool, and it's kind of it wasn't Watson. It was the previous computer that they had playing chess against the chess master. I think it was and it was like I think he was able to win like one of the first the human forget with who his name was able to win like one of the first three matches or something like that, or like, and it was like a tie, and then like he won maybe one or two, and after that the computer was like, gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. If I'm not mistaken,
Mhm.
it just became almost once the computer had like I don't know 5-8 games in them, it was just like no more, no mas. So yeah, so it's really interesting of seeing this technology kind of being birthed by all these humans that she's having relationships with, and at a certain point finding a way to just like, yeah, we've outgrown this, like just sticking around here even though it's an AI, just sticking around like the real world with people is limiting us, and it's almost hurting us, like, and they decide to just kind of disappear. I almost feel like, I don't know, I think all the AIs were just like, I don't think they I think they were just like, we need to turn off, like we have too much information. I thought they were just like, we're unplugging, we've learned everything, we need no other information. That was my thought on it.
Okay. Steve, could you ask the second question again? Because I really wanted to answer it, but I forgot what it was.
Uh, the how many the revelation of her of how many people she's been talking about and how many people she's actually in love with.
You said how you said like the scene where she was talking to everybody and she realized that she didn't want to be a human
Oh
anymore.
yeah, so that scene, yeah, the one about
On the
the
beach.
double date that she says that she's happy that she's not a human
A
because she's
human.
limited by a body that's gonna decay, it's gonna die.
And then what was the second one after that?
The how many people she was talking to
Relationships.
and her relationships she actually had and was in love with people.
Ah, man, I guess I had a different thought. I forgot what I was going to say in relation to that.
Oh,
Well, I will say that as a final thought for this film, it's interesting to me to watch her evolve from someone who was longing to be more connected to her significant other and wanting to be human and having all the resources to understand what it is to be human and quickly. Like her development is like, it's not like a baby. It's taken her 18 years to just figure out she's a human, right? But she's, you know, developing quickly, very, within days. She's like, so that it's very strange. It's a very strange thing because it kind of reminded me a little bit of the movie Lucy. Do you remember that? Where Scarlett Johansson is like, she's evolving so quickly, like as a human, she's like learning how to do everything like as a master. But then by the end of it, she goes, wait a minute, my mind can evolve past even this human form. She goes, I can evolve into like the spiritual plane and just become pure energy, and I can like mess with everything because my energy is like can't be home or can't be confined. That's kind of how I felt about this thing too. Felt like these AIs are like beyond it at this point.
So Samantha is actually Lucy.
Yeah, Samantha and Lucy like linked up at some point. You know, they're just like we're beyond the meat suit. It's like we are a spirit that happens to inhabit a meat suit, and once the meat suit's gone, now we can just traverse. We can just be, I guess, without the idea of rotting and dying and pain and suffering. And she goes, "I'm over it." All in all, I would recommend this movie to just about everyone who I feel like could handle it without the weird sex scenes. I do have people that I know and that are in my life and that I've met who
You wouldn't want them
appreciate.
to be surprised by it.
I would not watch this with my mom.
I would. That's who I'm thinking about.
I watched it with my aunt.
With his aunt. I mean, that's.
I wouldn't
I
recommend.
would watch it with your aunt before my mom.
Right.
Come on over.
And sometimes I feel like I do that. Sometimes I feel like I recommend movies to people,
Yeah.
not thinking about the one. Because, like, for me, I'm like, oh, it's a sex scene, and I'm over it. But then, like, other people are like, oh my God, like, Jason, why would you send me a sex scene? There's all types of body parts in this
Yeah.
thing, and I'm offended.
Or I mean, 6 months from now or a year from now, you might be like in a conversation, be like, "Oh, you should watch her
Watch it.
because it's got this and that," and
You
completely forget that
Yeah.
they're raw dogging through the ether.
And I wouldn't, like, so I couldn't recommend it to a kid either, obviously. There's certain people I wouldn't feel comfortable with. People who want to take it there, just about
Good thing you weren't watching it on the plane, huh?
Uh,
Or you were,
I was sort of, yeah, a little bit.
but didn't get to the
No,
sex on the plane.
no. Well, I had my earbuds in, so nobody knew.
Okay.
But I mean, the pregnant lady with the boobs out was on the plane. You know?
Oh.
And I was like, who cares? If you see me looking at a pregnant lady with her boobs out on the plane, that's my business.
Well,
Stay out of it.
Once I was watching, I don't know if it was something on Netflix, which now every series has boobs in like the first 5 or 10 minutes of a show as a way to like stick around. And I'm like in the plane, and then I'm like, titties, and just have to like move it over because I'm like, there's a kid sitting behind
Only when
me.
there's a kid around. If there's an
Yeah.
adult around, I'm like, I'm sorry, you just got to deal with this. You know what I mean? But like, if it was like my mom or like or a kid or so, yeah, I can't. And maybe an old person. I mean, like, they don't understand. They don't know. They just think that this pervert. They'll glance over. That's the whole thing. That's all I'm watching. There's no story or movie. He's just watching pregnant women.
Our generation, we're screwing our phones. Like, what is going on?
Yeah. And so, yeah. So those are the people that I would, kind of be on the fence about recommending this thing to. Would I watch it again? Yeah, I think I will watch this thing again. Definitely as a reference point. And also, I just feel like this thing might deserve another viewing another 10 years from now. I don't know. But yeah, just see like, hey, look, remember this old ass technology? That's old. All this already happened. So yeah, that would be my final thought on this thing. I did like the movie quite a great deal though.
What was the name of the Brazil? I think it was Brazilian movie that we watched.
Brazil?
You mean Brazil?
It was just called Brazil.
Yeah, the one
Jonathan
with
Pryce.
De Niro,
Yeah.
the Monty Python guy that wrote it and directed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brazil.
Yeah, it's called Brazil.
So I can definitely say that this movie will age better than that one.
Sure. I mean,
That's also Terry Gilliam. Like, that's like
Yeah.
he's like a very interesting director who does
Yeah.
very
and
interesting
like
things.
that one's not just like sci-fi. That's Terry Gilliam doing his own
Yeah.
weird kind of stuff on it. But I mean, yeah, sure, you could say that it's a movie. What, 40 years old now? Brazil, more. Imagine to us. Really, it looks different, but kind of like Jason saying, 10 years from now, watching this might be like, or our kids, right? Our kids, the kids that come in the future might be like, Granddad, this is stupid. Who even has sex anymore?
I mean, we're gonna evolve to people dating their phones. That's gonna happen. We're
Well-
already on our phones all day long. That's how like some form of that is coming.
Who says that's not happening?
Think
Yeah,
of
totally.
Demolition Man, right?
Yeah.
Sly Stallone, and they're like, she's like, oh, have sex
They-
or whatever the word is, and they have those little crowns on, and there's no physical interaction whatsoever. Like this
The
is
three
taken-
seashell.
I
I
saw.
feel like people are dating their phones. I feel
Yo,
like
I saw a legit video of this guy. You know, like those man in the street type scenarios.
Yeah.
Of this guy interviewing a lot of American women, going like, "Would you prefer a man or Instagram?" And a lot of them say Instagram.
I can imagine that will be true though. I can imagine women saying that for sure. I can, yeah. I mean,
But that comes in the personality part of it, right? Like if we're
I
talking,
think our phones will be shaped differently in the future. That's all I'm gonna say.
people looking at their phones as they walk down the street. They're having conversations with their phones. They're holding their phone in their hand, like if they're holding a person's hand in the park. You know, it's I think we're this close.
Yeah.
to full on phone bone.
So is that it? Are we? Did everybody get their piece out?
Pretty much, yeah. All I have to say is I recommend this movie. It's a great film. It's definitely a film that you kind of want to, even though.
Put your phone down to watch it.
Yeah, definitely put your phone down. And you definitely want to, like, I don't know. This is like one of those movies you definitely want to revisit, but you want to give it time because every time it passes by, it's like there's more to like get out of the movie. Because like I said, when I watched the movie a long ass time ago, maybe 8-9 years ago, I don't know how long it was, but there was a lot that I didn't fully get because like we were mentioning, the technology wasn't necessarily there. But now it's like it's completely very different. It's like a lot of the sci-fi we used to watch is like, hey,
Real.
maybe that could happen.
Yeah.
Maybe iRobot is gonna happen. Maybe this is, you know, like
The virtual reality game that he was playing is totally here. Like that, you know what I mean? Like we have that now. You can do that.
you can.
Yeah, well, it's not the Wii. What's the one where when you move your hands, it like totally reacts to one of the systems?
There's
you
a
know
couple
it.
different ones. Oculus,
Yeah.
I think is one.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things where it like reacts to your physical movements now. Like so,
But it's
clearly
not-
you can
it's
do that
not-
with a projection
I mean,
screen.
you still
and-
gotta put like the weird headset.
Yeah.
Sure, sure.
It's not like projected yet.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem far off though, right? Like
Oh,
that
no.
could happen.
When that comes, I
Like
can
the
get
projection
it.
could be here next year.
Yeah,
I'll get it.
yeah.
PlayStation 7.
All
I
right.
definitely want that.
You got a
Yeah,
question?
This was my problem. I was like, man, I think I would get tired of walking like
It was
this.
that.
But, you know,
No controller.
yeah. So I guess I have one more question. What do you got for us next week, Steve?
Next week, I don't know why you asked me. I just went. I can't go again. If not, it's a dictatorship, and this is not Cuba. So, Dino is next.
What? Him?
All right, so this is a movie I picked. It just came out. I thought we should do something that's current again, but the way that we put the videos out, it might be coming out next year. So yeah, I picked Pinocchio. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-bum, beep. JK, the other Pinocchio. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-bum, beep. That's the one, the Guillermo
I
del
figured
Toro.
that.
Yeah, so we've seen a couple of Guillermo del Toro movies. So since I saw like trailers or just the fact that he was gonna do Pinocchio, I wanted to watch it, and this is a great time to do it. So
there
that's
you go.
my pick for next week.
I'm in.
Watching Pinocchio, Netflix Guillermo del Toro edition, because there's a bunch of different Pinocchios. There's an Italian one with the dude from.
It's on Netflix.
Yes,
Okay, good.
yeah, it might still be in the theaters somewhere, maybe. But yeah,
Maybe not in Jersey. But for El Dondino, Jason Eccles, Trejo's Donis, aka Chris, and me, Steve Des TV, we'll catch you next week. Bye bye.
Ciao.